Alright, in the last lesson we learned about authentication with Firebase, and today we're going to look at authentication with Auth0. This is the application we had last time here, where we had the login, and I approved the Google login, and after that we got the user data from Google. And we also secured an API route where we could be able to fetch some secure data. And if we looked at the console, then you could see here that there was some secure data. So we're going to change the authentication from using Firebase to now use Auth0. So let's have it a go. So to get started, we are going to the Auth0 website. So I'm going to pull it in and we type in Auth0. And here you can see it's auth0.com. And if you haven't signed up yet, you can sign up and choose one of these social providers here, GitHub, Google or Microsoft, or you can log in. So I'm going to use GitHub, and we can choose, of course, Sweden. Actually, I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it again. So let me just sign in. So I'm going to click on login. And I'm going to get a code here, so let me just open up my phone. Three 87794. And I don't need to remember that. Oh, what did I do wrong? Let me have a look. Probably press too many buttons at the same time. So we're in. Okay. So what we see here is a getting started, and we can integrate Auth0 into our application. So integrate Auth0 into your application, or use one of our samples to get started in minutes. So that's what we want to do. We want to create an application, and we can call it grades dashboard here, and we're going to turn it into a regular web application. Then you click on create, and then you get to the next window here, and it's going to ask you what technology are you using for your projects, and we are using an Express project. So it works with all these other languages as well, see, all the other technologies. So whatever you learn here, you can use in other projects as well if you're going to learn another language. Then choose what you want. Do you want to explore a sample app or integrate it in your app? And as we know here, we already have an application that we're going to update. So we want to integrate it into our app. I'm going to click integrate now. Here then, it says configure Auth0. To communicate with Auth0 services, you need to set up allowed URLs for specific actions on your Auth0 application. We've provided defaults so you can test in on your local environment, but you can change them to match your setup. So you can always change this later. Let's use this. So this means our Express application is running on port 3000. Let's do that. And there's a callback URL and there's a logout URL. Okay, so let's save that for now. Save settings and continue. And now it wants us to install a dependency here. So your application will need the express-openid-connect package, which is an Auth0 maintained OIDC compliant library for Express. And then we continue reading here. So we're going to use this in a second here. The Express OpenID Connect library provides the auth router in order to attach authentication routes to your application. You will need to configure the router with the following configurations. And then we have this. So let's get started. Let's install this. So we can just copy this and we go to our application. Because we have the client and backend, we need to make sure that we are going to be in the backend part of our application. I'm going to open up the terminal. And then we just, let's see if I can get rid of this. There. Clear. And we can paste it in and enter. And mine is complaining because it wants me to type sudo in front of it. And now then you should be able to see that this is installed. The Firebase admin we do not need anymore, so we can say npm remove and we paste it in. So now you can see that one is gone. In the meantime, I can also go and clean up this one. I don't need that file. We're not going to use Firebase. We're not going to use that either. And we're going to update our middleware in a second. So let's have a look here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this part here. Copy. Go back to our code. And we're going to overwrite this. Like so. And we're going to say import. And then we're going to say from Express OpenID Connect, like this. And you can see in the other file here that we want to be able to use this here in this file here. So what you can see, I'm just going to copy this for a second and mark that here at the bottom. So what we're going to do here is the following. Because we want to export something, we can only export sort of variables. So let's make a variable here, and we're going to call this one then auth middleware. Auth middleware. And there then we can say that's auth, and then the config, like this. Because then later on in my other in my index.js file, I can say auth middleware. Yeah. So actually I can already copy this and save that file. Now I can go to my index.js file and I can actually do that. I can put that here. And here I would then say import, and I have to do these curly brackets here because I did not say default here. So if it's not default, then you have to use these curly braces. So it's auth middleware from middleware.auth.js, like so. Now here, this is a long randomly generated string stored in EAV. So we want that. Let's just make it randomly. I'm just going to hit some buttons on my keyboard. like so. But it said you don't want these ones, you want these in your env file, right? So let's put them in an env file, copy them. These ones, again, we do not need them. And let's write it like this. Remember, the standard is that they are capitalized. No, I don't think I should have that one there. So, base URL, client ID, and I will call this one issuer, like so. And then what I'll do here is I will say, take it away, process.env .secret. Before I continue, I just need to make sure that I import .env, otherwise I cannot use it, from .env. I know it's installed because I've used it with Firebase. And then we can say .env .config, like so. So we'll continue. I'm just going to copy this process.env. Base URL. Client ID. And here I said issuer. Like so. Not to forget the commas. There. Now let's get back to this area here. So now what I can do is I can call these routes. So we can already have a look at the routing here. Request is authenticated is provided from the auth router. So if we go to /forward, it sends us to the authentication. Let's have a look. We go back to our application here, and in here. Let's copy the routes. Let's see what happens. There. Let's start the backend. And let's see here. Let's install nodemon here. NMI. Let's do dev dependency. Nodemon. Let's do dev. And let's do nodemon index.js. Let's type npm run ndev. And we have a mistake here. Let's have a look what it is. And it's in our auth file that we played around with. And you can see actually that it is looking at index.js line 3 here. And this is still what we had from Firebase. Okay. Let's see. Do we still have things in here? Line 17? Yes. Let's just take these away for now. And we're running on port 5001, and we said we wanted to have it on port 3000. So let's say port equals 3000. And now when I restarted the server, it is running on 3000. Okay. Let's see what happens if I go to localhost 3000. I should be able to do that because it is a GET request. And you can see I am logged out. Now when we look at the getting started here, and we go to our documentation, and we go to, let's go to the API Explorers here and the quick starters. Let's have a look. Express quick start. Then what we can see here is we are now in the logged out URL here, 3000. But we can also go to login. So let's go to // login. Login. And here we can log in. Right now, continue with Google is activated. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to accept this. And now it's returned to logged in. So that works nicely. Yeah, even when I refresh, it keeps me logged in. Okay, let's go back to our code. And let's head into our client side here. So we're going to cd into the client. There. I'm going to close these for a second just to keep it tidy. There. And here, what I want to do is I want to go into the components and into login. Actually here, this I do not need. So let's get rid of that. And there. And login, that's what I wanted. So you see there's a lot of stuff here that we really do not need. So let's get rid of it. You know what, let's get rid of all of it. And we do RFCE. And I just want to return. And I wanted to go to HTTP localhost 3000, and then we're going to log in. And then we're going to call it login, and we're going to do the same for the log out, because when I look here, there is also a logout. A user can log out of your application by visiting the logout route provided by the library. If you're running a project on localhost 3000, that link would be http localhost 3000/logout. So we do logout, like so. Let's have a look what is happening now then. If we do npm run dev, and we go to here. So, oh, I didn't change the text here on logout. So let's say log out, like so. I click on login, and it says logged in. And if I click on logout, it says logged out. So that works well. Now let's also create a profile page. So let's see here, profile, and in there, a file, and we're going to say profile.jsx. Now let's do RAFCE there. And what do we want here? We want to import the use state and the use effects from React. And I also want Axios actually for fetching, and I don't think that we have that installed. So I'm going to run npm install Axios. And I'm going to import Axios from Axios, like so. And then I want to create two use states here. So const with the user and with the set user equals use state with the initial value of null, and we do a const, and we do actually we do loading, and we say set loading equals use state, and we'll set that initially to true, so it's loading. So we want to fetch some user data here, some profile data. So we're going to run a use effect. And inside the use effect, we're going to fetch the profile. So I'm going to say const fetch profile equals, and then because we're fetching, it's going to take a little while. And then we're going to do a try, catch, and if there is an error, so there's some code in here. If there is an error, what we can do is we can set this user back to null, and then we can finish it off with set loading to false there. Okay, so we installed Axios. So const response or res, whatever you like, equals, and now it's going to take a while, so we're going to do await axios.get, and we're going to go to HTTP and then localhost 3000, so our backend. And I want to hit an API that's called profile. And then I want to write down with credentials, and I want to set that to true. And what it does is that it sends the cookies with the Auth0 session. And then what we want to do is we want to set the user, and then we take the response dot data there, and that also runs this. Let's run it. So there, underneath the use effect, we can type in that if it's loading, we can return a loading text to inform the users, and we can also give them a message that if there is not a user, then we basically know that you are not logged in, right? Now let's create that endpoint. So we go back to the backend here. going to stop it. And I'm going to open it up here, and then I'm going to index.js. And I want to say app.get. And then I want to go to /forward, and we set profile. And then we're going to say there. We always do that, right? With a request and a response. But we also need to add the middleware. So to do that, we need to import something here. And we're going to import. And actually you can see that from here. We need to import auth and require auth from Express OpenID Connect, which we installed, and then we can add that. Let me push it up a bit. We can add that into our API calls. Why is it not opening? Here you can see it. So we're going to add this. I'm just going to paste that in. And then up here, we can say auth and requires auth from Express there. Save. And the auth we actually already used, so we do not need that one there. There. Then in here, we can do a try catch. And then if there's an error, we can just console log the error for now. And in the try, here, what we can do is we can say response.json. And what we need is the request dot. And then we're going down to the OIDC here, dots. And we want the user there. Let's see what happens. How far are we? So npm run dev and npm run dev. Let's see, what is the error here? We have an error here. It says here that this is not working. So instead we need to do this. So let's just copy that and replace this like so. Okay, and now it's running. Okay, so let's see what happens if I hit this endpoint. So localhost 3000/forward profile. So let's have a look. Do localhost 3000/forward profile. And it wants us to log in, so let's do that. And you can see that we are getting the data back. So that's really good. The only thing left now is, because we were still logged in, it remembered us. Actually, no, we just logged in now, yeah. We would like to have this happen from the front end. So localhost 5173. When I log in, I would like to get that profile, right? This one that we were just setting up. So we would like it to come here and then redirect us to this profile component. So I have, if I go back here, given name, I have a picture, I have a name. So let's go with those for now. Okay, so here I'm going to take a H2 and I'm going to say hello, and in there I want the user dot given name. Given name, I want to say Michiel. And if the user hasn't given it to me, I just want his name, okay? So I want that. Which one was it again? I always forget. I don't know why I always forget. Or user.name, like so. After that, I would like to get the user picture. User.picture. And I also want the image. And from the image, I want the user.picture. And then I want the user.name. And I want the style. Let's embed it. The width 80 and a border radius of 50. And there. And now let's see if after logging in, when I'm hitting this route here, that it sends me to that profile page. So I don't need to see all this. I want it to return. And what I want it to return is the response dot and then the OIDC dot login. And what I want is I want to return to, and now I'm going to say HTTP localhost 5173/profile. Okay, so backend is still running, this is still running. Let's have a look how far we come. Login. And I have a node found, so I need to see what that is. And what is actually happening here is that the route doesn't even exist in the front end. So I need to go back and fix that. So I am here, and here I have no profile. So I need to import that profile from there, and then I need to add that here as well. So we can say the same. We say path profile element profile. There. Now let's see if that was the only problem. So it's still running. The client is also still running. Let's have a look. Login. And it's not working. We're not getting the same error message. Let's have a look if we get something here. And there's a message here. Course policy. Okay. So let's have a look at the course. Let's try to fix that then. So we go in here and we have course here. So for the course, let's add an object here so we can specify this. And first of all, we're going to allow origin HTTP, and then localhost 5173, which is our front end. And let's also set the credentials to true. And what that does is that it allows the cookies. There. Now let's go back where I can log in. And it's working. And why is this OR taken there? Let's have a look. Okay, I could just make this one thing there, so then it disappears. So that's how you start using Auth0 for your authentication instead. Last thing I can show you is, let me open up the Auth0 page again, and here it is. And you can see here that there is lots to choose from. So you can see here, it's me logging in on different occasions, 6 years ago, 9 minutes ago, never. You can look at the database here. You can connect databases. If you look at your applications here, so this is the last one here. If I go in, then let's have a look. Where was that? Here. I am looking for the, is it the socials? Let's see. I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to look it up. Okay, what I want to show you here was in the socials anyways, and that if I turn this off here, which I cannot do now, use it for the, I cannot remember at the moment. Let's see if I can turn this off. No. Yes, it was actually in there. So now when I go to, let me show you here. If I go to localhost 5173 and I go and log in, you can see that it's now removed the socials. Okay, because you don't really want that. You want to assign them. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can make choices in the future on which one you want to use, Firebase or perhaps Auth0, which has a lot more to offer. Might not be as user-friendly, but it's all what you get used to, of course. So enjoy and keep up the good work, and see you in the next lesson.